So CNN and MSNBC and every mainstream media outlet took their claws out and went after Bernie after the debate. Of course, across the board, they say he did a bad job, he faded into the background, and now there's like one or two polls coming out of Iowa that show him slipping. So they are using this to hammer home the message that they already had waiting no matter what the outcome of the debate was. So let's take a look at one of these clips. Now, just so everybody knows, I could have picked a CNN clip, I could have picked a Fox News clip, I could have picked anything, but this one's going to be an MSNBC clip. Let's see what they're saying here about Bernie, and then I'll give you the reality.
It's harder to suss out some of the losers. I think Bernie is a great example of a place where everyone wasn't sure what to make of his performance. I sort of thought he faded into the background. He didn't have a big standout moment. And his polls have sort of faltered a little, but not monumentally.
Didn't you think it was a replica of Bernie being Bernie? Like if there were a hall of the states for losers that lose these elections. No, he's not a loser, but he loses elections. He would be behaving like that automaton. That was Bernie being Bernie, the way that Larry David portrayed.
I was just going to say Larry David, Chris. No, I think with one other candidate in the race, Bernie being Bernie was fine in 2016, or rather it served him well. But on a stage with 9 other candidates and with now 25 people in the race,
You're so smart. That's exactly, whenever somebody says something, I've been thinking better than I do. I thought it's very hard to talk revolution when there's 9 people around you that are not in the revolution. How do you claim there's a revolution going on when you got all these Andrew Yang and everybody else there?
Well, and Bernie's also saying the same thing he said in 2016 this time around. I think that's not working.
That's exactly the point I was going to make, is that America has evolved. In the last 4 years, people's perspectives have changed. Bernie Sanders sounds like 2015 Bernie Sanders. And if you've expected some evolution and you haven't gotten it from him, a lot of people stretching their
Has he been stolen his lines from the left? Because you've got Kamala, much younger, talking pretty hard stuff, pretty strong, progressive stuff. You've got Elizabeth, who's been out there for 4 years selling it, and she says it in a somewhat more subtle way. I'm not a socialist, I'm a Democrat. I believe in markets, but I want to refine them, I want structural change. Very carefully calibrating how far left the country's willing to go. Still, Bernie's out there with the old left.
Yeah, I think so, Chris, and I also think that voters know that Bernie Sanders has been talking about these same policies essentially since he's been in public service for the past 25, 30 years, but he actually hasn't done anything to pass them, right? He's talked a lot about them, but we have not seen any of these policies signed into law. So you've got Kamala Harris, Elizabeth Warren, new senators on the scene who I think voters are looking at them and saying, you know what, these ladies may actually have a chance to get these policies passed.
Okay, so much of that is utter bullshit. Bernie Sanders and Ro Khanna, they were the only people to actually get 350,000 Amazon workers a raise. They also got Disney workers a raise. He's been protesting with unions for better pay. Since he ran last time, he's been out there doing that, having rallies. He also got the Yemen War Powers Resolution passed, and of course it was President Trump who vetoed that. And then not only that, he's called the Amendment King for a reason. He's really been brilliant on that front at, slipping provisions that are in accordance with his social democratic ideology into pieces of legislation that get passed. So this is all nonsense. And the idea that Kamala or any of these people would get Bernie Sanders policies passed, look at her record. She's just playing a game to try to get elected. The idea that she's actually some sort of firebrand lefty, and as Chris Matthews said, she's calculating exactly how far left Americans are willing to go, that's utter nonsense. It was 2014 when she was laughing at the idea of legalizing marijuana. Bernie led the way. These other people are following, and they're following not because they even necessarily believe in it, they're following because they know that that's the path to get elected. So much of this is just silly. I mean, these people are paid to talk politics, and they're just making stuff up. He's an automaton. America's evolved. America's evolved towards his positions. They were already there, by the way. The polls show overwhelming support for the things that he's in favor of. But if anything, they've evolved more towards Bernie Sanders' position. And then they keep going with this argument now, which leads me to believe it was an actual talking point that came from higher-ups. The idea of he's too consistent. That's not a criticism. I know you think it is because you're silly, but that's not a criticism. Oh my God, a politician who actually says something and means it and keeps saying it because he's trying to change the country in that direction. That's a breath of fresh air. That's not something to scoff at. Why haven't you evolved? And by the way, there are some issues where he's gone further now. So you can say he evolved. For example, foreign policy was an issue that he had a little bit more on the back burner in 2016. Now he's putting it front and center in many ways. So it's so frustrating. Now, they're digging his political grave. This is one clip of many clips, but people are saying, oh my God, see, this is the end of Bernie. Bernie's imploding. By the way, every headline on new polls that came out all had like, oh, Biden still leads but is slipping and Kamala is surging. Everyone. Now, you want to know the reality? Well, let's take a look at this from David Sirota. He lays it out in good detail. On Tuesday, Bernie 2020 announced nearly 1 million donations in the second quarter, surpassing the Trump campaign's number by over 250,000 donations. Trump's campaign touted their 725,000 individual donations online in the second quarter as integral to their campaign strategy. However, since announcing in the first quarter, Bernie Sanders has already received 1.9 million donations, eclipsing both Trump and every Democratic candidate in the primary field. Sanders' fundraising base has also shown room for significant growth, as 46% of the second quarter donors were giving for the first time, and 99.9% of all donors are able to contribute again. In addition to the strongest grassroots fundraising in the field, multiple national post-debate polls have shown Sanders continuing to lead Trump in general election matchups and building on a strong position in the Democratic primary. Now look at these specifics. There's a new Washington Post ABC poll that came out. Bernie's at 23%. Now that's only 6 points behind Biden, who's still in first and plummeting. And he gained 12 points in 2 months since Biden launched his campaign. He gained 12 points since Biden launched his campaign. Sanders leads the field among voters under age 50 and has a diverse coalition, including 23% support of African-American voters. I believe that's more than he had in 2016. Reuters Ipsos poll is another new one. Bernie's at 16%, just 6 points behind first, and building on an Ipsos poll from April and May, and then a Morning Consult poll. Bernie's in second place at 19%, and following the debate, Bernie has the highest favorable ratings of any Democratic candidate. Okay, so let me explain something here. Are there some polls that show Bernie slipping in some narrow ways? Yes, I just told you in Iowa, there's a poll or two that has him slipping. Now, is that cause for concern? Well, yes, but I would argue you should be concerned even if he's in first. So the idea of like, hey, should this spur us to work harder and fight more and spread the word more and get more involved and donate more and try to make it so he wins? Yes, but that's always going to be my answer. You should always do that. If he's in first, if he's in last, I don't care. Work harder. Are you doing well? Great. Work harder. You doing poor? Great. Work harder. That's it. That's my philosophy. So are there some nuggets of information that you can use to cherry pick to make the opposite case that, oh my God, Bernie's not doing so well right now? Sure, you can make that case. But then also you got to see the total picture, and I just told you the positives. And there are a lot of positives. So, listen, it's a long way out from the election, and the bottom line is we got to work. We got to work. But what you're seeing from mainstream media is, and I told you this 1,000 times, what they do is they push the narrative they want to push as they pretend like they're just calling balls and strikes. It's similar to the notion of push polling. Push polling is when you call and you ask a question, but you're not really interested in the answer. You're just asking the question and try to plant a seed in that person's mind. George W. Bush did it to John McCain back in the 2000 primary for the 2001 election. Wait, was the election in 2000 or 2001? Whatever, it doesn't matter. I digress. And he said, how would you feel about John McCain having fathered an illegitimate black baby? What? Now, when you send, a question like that to Southern white racists, what do you think's going to happen? You know what's going to happen. They're going to turn on John McCain. And that's basically what ended up happening. So that's what a push poll is. You plant an idea as you pretend like, me, bro, I'm just asking questions. So that's what the media is doing. Oh, shit. Is Bernie's campaign done? I think Bernie's campaign might be done. Let's talk about how poorly Bernie Sanders did. Did Bernie Sanders do poorly? Oh, yeah, I think Bernie Sanders did poorly. They're cherry-picking information that they could use to try to build that case and ignoring all the data that says the exact opposite. So don't fall for their bullshit. However, I will say this. Take what they're saying and use it to spur your ass into gear. I don't know about you guys, but I'm doing a monthly contribution to Bernie. I have it on the recurring payment cycle. So, get involved, man, however you can, because they're never going to treat him fairly, and we can't rely on them ever treating him fairly. But now you know the reality of the situation, and again, it's just a matter of working harder to get our man over the finish line.